Hi, I'm Bet from Bet's Makes, and today I'm going to take you through a spiral vinyl design technique. And we're going to use several different pieces of software going out to the web. Now, here's an example of one that I had done just as an example. And we're going to use a different design and make one of our own. So I'm going to take you through the whole process. So let's get going in our design space and start a new project, and then we're going to go through all of the steps and bring it right into design space and then cut one of our own. So we'll be right back and I will bring up the files. So the first place we want to go is a location called spiralbetty.com, and as you can see it up here, and I will put the link to it down below. So it's just spiralbetty.com. We're going to upload an image. So that's exactly what we want to do here. We can also drag and drop an image in, and I have picked an image that I want to use, and this is a butterfly. And let me just take this, and I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit, and then I'm going to grab that file and I'm going to drop it right in here. And then I can decide how I want this to go. I can make it a lot bigger or I can make it a lot smaller. As you see, I'm going to lose pieces of that butterfly. So maybe that's not the one I want. And I can change my mind with it. I can just go back here and I'm going to leave it. And then I'm going to go back here to Spiral Betty. And I'm going to try a different butterfly design, maybe one that's a little smaller. Let's just bring it in. And I find that they're pretty big, but we'll use this as an example. So unless we go into it, we will get the premise of the whole design here. Now you can bring your own into it. Remember, it is spiralbetty.com. So I'll just click on the check mark here, and it's going to make my design. As you can see, I've got a blue background and it picks out the different colors. You'll notice that there is a lot of different colors. It has the two. Now I can change the scale here. Watch what happens with the scale. I can get it very fine right to the end so that you see a lot more of the detail, or I can take it right down the other end so it's pretty tough to understand what it is. I'm going to kind of go a little higher with this because when you start pulling this apart, you have to make sure you can pull pieces apart quite easily. Let's go right about here in the middle of it. And it doesn't matter the colors that you pick right now. What matters is the way we are going to weed this a little later. Okay, that looks pretty good. Over here, you can change the colors just to black and white or whatever it happens to be. We don't really care at this point what that happens to be. So what I'll do is I will just leave it at this color. Then I'm just going to download this. And I'm just going to download it. And it says it's for personal use. No big deal. It downloads to my folder here. So what I want to do next is I want to take that image and I want to go over to PNG to SVG, because what I want to do is remove that background. So what I'm going to do is come down here, take a look. I am going to drag and drop a file in here. So I'm just going to open this one and I'm going to show it in the folder. And there it is. So what I want to do now is I want to drag it and I'm going to drop it in right about here. And what this is going to do for me is I'm going to only use two colors. So I can decide I just want these two colors and to heck with the grays. So what I'm going to do is hit the minus signs here. I only want these two colors available because I'm just going to cut it at that point. And that looks pretty good. So I am going to generate it. See what it comes up with the two colors. It'll just take a second or two, and that looks exactly the way I want it. And remember, this is free as well, so I'm going to download the SVG, and it just calls it image2vector SVG, which is fine. I can rename it later. Okay, we have all the files we want. I no longer need to be here. I want to go back into my design space, and here we are. So what I want to do now is I want to upload that image. So I'm going to click on upload, I'm going to browse for it. I happen to know it's in my downloads folder and it just called it image to vector. I'm just going to rename it here. I like to rename it so I know what it is, and I'm just going to call it a spiral butterfly. Then I know what it is, and I also know what it is when I bring it into Design Space. So I'm just going to click on Open. And there it is, and it's coming in as a cut image. It should come up as an SVG. PNG to SVG. I don't know why it didn't come in, but let's try something here. Let's go upload. Looks like it's okay. We'll click on it. Let's insert the image. Now it's telling me these are basic cuts, and it's got a white background here. Basic cut. I'm going to turn that one off. I only want this bottom piece, the one layer, which is going to cut. Now you'll notice that this is a smaller piece. This one is about 6 inches wide. The one I had done previously was about 8 inches, just so I could see all the layers. What I'm going to suggest you do is just come up here and change the size here to, say 8 inches. So it'll go 8 by 8, and that's so it's easier to weed. You can make it smaller, you can make it larger. So all we need to do now, after we've turned that one off, is go over to here and save. And I'm just going to call it a spiral butterfly. I'm going to save it. And the next thing we need to do, of course, is we need to go over and we need to make it. Now, you can make it out of permanent vinyl, or you can make it out of temporary or non-permanent vinyl. It's going to come up with this black. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's continue. And now it's material choices that are going to be really important because you want to cut it. You could also cut this one out of paper if you so wish, or you could make it out of iron-on. You just remember you're going to have to weed it at some point. I am just going to use premium vinyl. In order to find your materials, you can click on Browse All Materials and type in vinyl. Click on the search icon here. Oh, spelled it wrong. V-I-N-Y-L. Search for that. That has all these different types of vinyls that you can pick. I'm just going to pick the premium vinyl because that's what I like to use the most. That's what I have a lot of. Okay, so I'll just click the X, but you could click something else if you want. I'm going to go premium vinyl. And now at this point, all I have to do is cut it, and then I'm going to show you how to weed it when we get over onto the demo table. So I've cut out the spiral, and what happens is, this is what I had done before, where I had to take all the little pieces out and be able to apply it. So I'm going to have to use a nice strong transfer paper for this. But as you can see, the spirals are a little difficult to see, and sometimes I will put a powder on against it. But right now, what we want to do is be able to see where the spirals are. So I'm just going to take out a tool here, and this is just a little Cricut tool that I'm going to use in order to take out the initial one. Now it's just a matter of making sure that you see what's going on here, and I'm just going to pull out this back piece, and sometimes it's a little hard to see. Let's see if I grab it this way. There we go. Just want to get this started because when we go through the weeding process with this, it's a little more difficult. I'm just going to pull this right off here. There we go. That's what I wanted. And it is you just have to bring it right to the edge. And some of you are going to love weeding, some not so much. Now this one is a little tougher when you go to weed, but I've got the outside edge now, and that's what I was looking for, just the outside edge. I don't want to pull anything else off, just the edge. Have to be very careful with it. And there's the entrance piece right there, so I have to be careful. I don't want to get into an area where I'm not going to be. Now I know it looks like a lot of waste, and that's because of the way I set it up. And I'm just going to pull that right off there. Okay, I know I have a little bit of waste here, but that's fine. I'll just put those over to the side. Now when you're weeding this particular item, what I like to do is I take it from the center. So we find the little center piece. Now this one doesn't seem to be sharp enough for me to get in there. So I'm going into my little toolbox here. And I have a sharper edge here. I'm going to try this one. And it's just a matter of finding where the center piece is. And I know they make it look really easy. But once I have it, as you can see, we're going to start seeing the spiral appear. And you just have to be gentle with it. I made it wide enough that I think that we'll be able to see it as we go along. And let's just pull this apart. I'm going to do it gently because I really don't want this to break as I'm going through, because it's really hard to pick up again. You can see we're starting to see our design at the same time. This is a cute little project. Now you could have used any kind of photo you wanted. Just take this in my hand here. I'm going to be all gummed up by the time we're finished here. You don't want to make these spirals too close together either, because if you do, you're not going to be able to take them apart as easily, and that was a mistake I had made with the first one I had done. But once you get going on this, as you can see, our design is starting to appear really nicely. Don't want to go too quickly here. Okay, as you can see, we're getting there slowly but surely. And you can see our picture starting to appear. This is really great. A little harder to handle as it gets bigger and bigger. I might just break this off. That piece over there. And it's much easier to start on the inside. And the reason I like on the inside, then I'm not going to make a mistake and pull the wrong one. And then you lose your pattern. But as you can see, we're getting our butterfly design is coming right out. Just pull that off again. It's all tangled up in here. Let's get our piece going again. This is so cool. As it gets bigger, it gets a little harder to handle. Like we pulled something extra here that we didn't need to. That's why you have to be so careful when you're pulling. Pull this back. That seems to have come apart right there. Not to worry about it too much because we'll still see our design. It's just that we want to make sure we're not pulling the wrong threads. I can fix this up a little later. Use my little tool here just to hold it down. Stuck to me. Okay, we want to keep that piece down. It looks like it wanted to let go right about there. Okay. So So let me just pull from here. Make sure that that sticks down. It's a real danger when you get so close to the edge. There we go. We've got it back in place, and we'll have to make some adjustments. Just because we have this piece that's supposed to be inside. I'm just going to pull it over here so that we don't mess around too much with it. It's very delicate, thin lines. That's why you don't want to get too vigorous with the pull. Oh, I lost it here. There we go. Just want to be very gentle with it. It wants to pull from the paper here. That's what it is. It's right in that corner. So a couple of more pulls here and I think we'll be good to go. And then we'll have to make those adjustments to make sure it lies in place. Just going to turn it this time because it's getting a little dicey on this edge of it. There we go. Just a couple of more little pulls here. Looks like it came apart right there. Okay, we look okay. And then I'm just going to pull from this edge. And it looks like we have a little edge here that I can get rid of right now. There it is. For some reason it didn't want to cut through some of it. So I'm going to pull an extra edge out. So you'll see that this one kind of messed up on me. So I'm just going to pull it around. I'm going to take 2 layers here just so that I can smooth it out. And then I'm going to cut it off right there. Perfect. There's always something that's going to mess you up on these, so you just have to be very careful in how you do it. Little edge here can go right in. Now what you want to be able to do, so we've got little areas here where it crossed over, and I'll just get rid of some of the extra excess here, just move it out of the way. You're going to bring these back over, the ones that didn't stick in the right place. Get them situated where you want them to go. This takes a little fiddling. Try to get as perfect as you can. Sometimes these are so thin. It is really tough to get them in exactly the right place. But you just have to work on it a little bit to make sure you're as close as possible. It's looking really good here. Straighten this one out a bit. Straighten this out a little bit. See where this one has come across as well. So what you're going to do is just pull it. Just want to place it. Now this is a little more finicky than some people want to bother with, but once you get them in place, this is a really cool design. So I'm just going to stick it down close to where I want it as possible. There we go. Just going to bring it up here where it belongs. And there we are. We found the last piece of it. And it is sometimes just a matter of placing it. Now when you transfer it over onto another surface, this is where you're going to have some fun with it, because it is so delicate in what you have here. There we go. There's always a couple that just don't fit the right way. A little bit off. Remember, anything worth doing sometimes is not that easy, especially this one. I mean, it's a great idea, but once you get these little loose ends like this, you want to be able to straighten them out a little more than what they are. I just use this and my fingers to try and get it into the place where I want it. That one looks pretty good there. Now I just have to add and fix this next one. It will stretch a little bit. Okay, we have a few little extra spots here that I'm not too happy with. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough for that area. But as you can see your butterfly in this design. Now what you want to be able to do with this, of course, is apply it onto another surface. I've got another one here, I can do the same thing. You probably don't want anything too heavy duty when you go to pull this up off the surface, but you do want to keep it in order. So I would use a light grip transfer paper in order to move it over, and then you can apply it to the surface from there. So you just have to be very careful in how you do it, and you'll have to work it a little bit at a time. But that's the basic premise behind it, and I've got a couple of examples here. Why don't you give it a try and pull it off and see what kind of spiral you get. You can also use the same design and do something like I did here. This is simply printed on here, and this is a iron-on transfer that I can put on a shirt. So you could do it either way, just as the vinyl or as the transfer. So hope you had a lot of fun giving this one a try. Until next time, happy crafting.